Hello, and welcome back to Far Horizons Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we're going to continue on with Suzerain. So last time out, we had some meetings with our Interior Ministry and Ministry of Defense regarding national security issues, as well as an impromptu little meeting with Walter Tusk, where we kind of just took a bunch of his money and decided that we're going to backstab him later. So let's go and pick up here. Got a whole bunch of stuff. It's like 3 or 4 reports and a bunch of newspapers and a whole bunch of exclamation marks. So let's go start off with the reports here. Why not? So from Narbel Situation Report. The Ministry of Defense reports that the situation along the border is getting tense. Rumberg's Southern Army was sighted training close to our borders and did not respond after we issued a radio message. Chief of the Armed Forces, General Kruger, reports to have increased patrolling duties along the northern border to signal readiness. Fun. Alright. From Anarcha, local police working with nationalists. One of our agents acting as a young swords member had an encounter with 2 members of the local police force in Anarcha, Alison Bolar and Vicanesi. According to the report, the policeman tried to bribe the agent to burn down a store that belongs to a known Communist Party member and to instigate further violence. We have detained the policeman on charges of corruption. Sweet. Alright. I know I saw one more report around here somewhere. At least I thought I did. Alright, maybe not. Maybe it's just those two. Cool. Alright. Well, whatever. Let's do newspapers here. Alright, let's see here. From Whole Sword Post. Keebner suggests expanding executive powers. The leader of the NFP, Kasara Keebner, suggested that the new constitution should expand executive powers, adding fuel to the debate over the possibility of reforming the 1929 constitution. He pointed out the current dire situation of Sordland and emphasized the need for strong leadership. The current constitution suggests the division of executive powers between the cabinet and the president, who has no immunity before the courts for acts of treason and unconstitutional behavior during office. In the system suggested by the NFP, the president would have absolute immunity before the courts, and it is the president who would chair the cabinet. It is not clear yet whether this suggestion would spark further debate in the Reform Committee within the PFJP and the USP. The PFJP proposal had suggested the president should have no presidential decrees, might result in the abolishment of the assembly and take the country to an early election, despite the independents' counter-proposal to give similar power to the parliament to take down the president, but that detail was not shared with the press in yesterday's press conference. Interesting, okay. Alright, let's see here from the Lockhaven Times. Reform demands gain popularity. Demands for reform are gaining more popularity than ever. Latest public opinion reports show that the majority of the Swordfish people want changes in the governmental structures that were established after Tarkin Sol's military coup in 1929. Public trust in the Grand National Assembly and the Supreme Court is at an all-time low. While rumors of reform talks are coming out from the Assembly, it seems unlikely that without complete unity, none of the parties will be able to lead such a proposal. In order to change the Constitution, the proposal must collect at least 150 signatures and then reach the needed 166 votes. If the proposal passes the Assembly, it is still subject to another voting in the Supreme Court as well as judicial review, which still stands as the biggest obstacle before the parties. Then we've got two articles here from the Radical. First up, Workers' Party Solidarity March. The pro-minority Workers' Party of Bludia rally in the Bludish majority city of Erzurum attracted a large audience. The gathering was heavy on flags and banners, whooping in the rain and chill wind as the gatherers declared solidarity with Bernard Circas. Among the speakers at the rally was Monsoon Leak, a Bludish member of Assembly who is standing as the leader of the independents in the Grand National Assembly. Although not a member of the WPB, he was the leading figure of the event. We will again foil this war plot that was set up by the Solist ideology, he said, in reference to the series of conflicts and bloodshed during Tarkin Sol's term as president, which claimed thousands of Bludish lives. We will come out of this tunnel of conflicts. We will not only win against discrimination, we will win the truth. We have altogether foiled this trick of polarization. Our songs of peace, which spread from Ism, will ring out even stronger all over Sordland, Leak added, in reference to the Ism incident in 1933, which triggered Tarkin Sol's persecution of Bludish minorities and the formation of a militant organization, Bludish Freedom Front. And last up, Bludish citizens targeted. 20 Bludish citizens were attacked by a group of people suspected to be members of Young Swords during their peaceful protests to support Bernard Circas. Group was overwhelmed, and local police forces couldn't reach the protesters to protect them amidst the chaotic crowd. The attackers ran away without getting caught, and 11 victims were hospitalized with critical injuries. Lovely. Alright. So, looks like all that's left is exclamations. Let's head whole sword for the Economic Relief Plan. Let's see. So Economic Relief Acts. With the assistance of the National Business Council and the Central Bank, Simon Hole put forward a countrywide relief plan to mitigate the economic hardships that are being felt. We can either provide stimulus checks for people in need or bail out businesses under serious financial strain, or decide not to approve the plan. Alright, well, we're obviously going to provide stimulus checks for people in need. That one's not really a difficult choice. Alright, so let's see. Country overview. We've got Economic Relief Act and stimulus checks distributed as a green thing. Journal, just adding that we distributed stimulus checks. Alright, new news report here from The Economist on unemployment and checks. The administration has fallen for populism and the idea that giving people money will solve the problems with the economy overall. It is hard to grasp where these ideas come from, especially when long-term job growth and employment is what this country needs to secure in order to have a stable economy. But what is the plan here? People will be able to pay their rents for a few months and then will fall into the same unemployment trap due to lack of job availability or security. Businesses can't carry all the weight of the declining economy on their shoulders and employ people without help from the government. The administration needs to reevaluate their way out of the recession with realistic methods. Cool. I don't really care what you have to say there, newspaper. Alright, I don't know, let's head to Lenkirk. Which one's this? H3 highway contract. After driving through the cliffside roads, we arrived in Lenkirk. There, cheerful citizens greeted us and local government officials escorted us to the city hall. Here, a significant meeting about the H3 project would take place. Several construction companies sent their representatives to City Hall. Even though Gus Manger couldn't make the meeting, I had Simon Hole and Lilius Groff by my side. Now, besides starting our economic recovery, the travel time by road will drop by more than half, Mr. President. This project will improve the island region. I've lived with these people and seen them suffer. I trust your plan, Simon. I am glad to hear that. We should be able to slow down the recession if we finish this project successfully. Positive financial outcomes are expected. According to my sources, this can lift many out of poverty in these areas. What will it take to stop the recession? This is just the beginning. We'll need to follow this project up with several other economic investment projects. That depends on the government budget. We need to make sure we have enough money to fund critical ministries, but still have money left for investments. Yes. Simon searched the documents he's holding and found the one he was looking for. I have the overview of the companies here. Simon handed the files over to me. I looked at the files. 3 corporations were listed: the Sortish State Corporation, Underhall Construction, and Taurus Holding. I reviewed them. I also took the liberty of asking the Mayor of Aubrey to give his opinion on the matter. Now, which corporation should we talk about? Let's talk about the Sortish State Corporation. The respected Sortish State Corporation, also known as the SSC, is founded in 1891. It is the main state corporation tasked with running the day-to-day construction services of our country. The SSC is one of our most trusted and honorable companies. They have served us a long time, and I have worked with them on several occasions. It would fulfill your initial election promise of using state-dominant planned economy to improve the bleak economic prospects. They have the experience and the manpower to pull off a project like this. Lilius paused for a second. Secondly, they are the only company to have worked in the island region out of all 3 corporations. Yeah, but the outdated construction methods they use concern me. They're several decades behind. Yeah, but the experience they bring to the table is beneficial. I don't agree with the negative statements for the SSC. Their record clearly shows completed contracts with thousands of employees who have more than 20 years of experience. Yeah, I mean, we're going with the SSC anyway, so I don't care. I'm just gonna go straight with it. Cool. Yeah, I don't care. I'm going with the SSC. Yeah, good that we're staying consistent to our economic strategy. Simon signed a certain section of the dossier and fixed his glasses. Yes, some in the Lothar group won't like this, but the contract will be awarded to the Source State Corporation. We're very glad that you have made this choice. I can tell from my experience we will be very satisfied with this cooperation. The company will be notified today, and the construction work will begin immediately after. Cool, I think we're off to a good start. My expectations for a grand opening ceremony are late next year. I better get back to work then. Thank you. This concludes the meeting. The meeting ended, and we spent the remainder of the day attending events in Lindbergh. It was nice to enjoy the natural beauty of the island and eat some good fish. Nice. Alright. That was quick and painless. And yeah, the construction contracts awarded to Source State Corporation, and I decided not to fulfill the bribe demand of the oligarchs. Perfectly fine by me. Walter Tusk is kind of a douche canoe. Alright, so let's check the news here. So, Whole Sword Post, construction begins for H3 Highway. Source State Corporation has been awarded a 2-year contract for an extensive infrastructure project, subsequent design and construction work as part of the H3 Highway expansion project in Swordland. In addition to the geotechnical ground investigation, SSC will provide the design of all civil structures, including ground retaining walls and earthworks for the highway. SSC said it could build the line faster than the deadline at a much lower cost, according to a letter seen by The Economists. But opposition leader Richard warned letting SSC build H3 would be extremely questionable. The H3 project involves the widening of hundreds of kilometers of existing motorway between Lockhaven and Arbury, including an open tunnel nearly 3 kilometers long. The highway will pass from Lenkirk and Arbury and later be expanded to the Agnolian capital, Stallport. And from Swordland Today, Risky Highway Project. The government has announced a new mega infrastructure project to help alleviate the symptoms of their recession. When the Minister of Economy announced the launch of one of the most contested construction projects in Swordland, a new highway from Lockhaven to the Agnolian capital, Stallport, he said this project will cross the poorest areas of Swordland, developing the region, improving foreign trade, and increasing access to employment. The contract for the project was given to the old and outdated Source State Corporation with the decision of the President. Mega projects, such as the construction of ports, transport lines, clean railways, motorways, and power plants, typically cost billions of ren. They're difficult to manage due to their scale, high levels of complexity, and substantial impact on communities, the environment, and state governments. The decision of such a vital project to be given to SSC should not have been taken so easily, as they suffer from an inefficient bureaucracy that often causes delays. The management of the old company is not based on merit but political connections. Ireland has long been neglected as a region and was in need of serious investments in its infrastructure. While this is positive news, it is doubtful if this project is worth the money and time that it will consume. Cool, well, screw you too. Alright, let's head to Conriat and meet with Marcel Cronti. We were headed to the meeting location set by Marcel Cronti. The motorcade is made up of the most confidential and trustworthy team. After a few hours of driving along River Escol, we took a turn before entering Conriat. The darkness started setting in as we drove up the hill. I looked outside. I could see giant stadium lights at the hilltop far away in the distance. It looked like a massive complex.
We are nearing our destination.
We arrived, and the big iron gates of the country club opened. It was huge and outright extravagant. The main building, inspired by lesbian architecture, was lit from all sides. It was rather chilly. I was approached by Peter Vector and Lucy Galad. I hope the journey was comfortable. It wasn't bad. Look forward to this meeting.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be worth our time. He's a Cronti after all. Let's get personal.
Let's. We entered the main building. After opening the marble-engraved wooden door, we were greeted by 2 tall women. The receptionist led us up to the meeting room upstairs. Marcel was standing by the window looking outside at the beautiful complex. He turned around to have a quick look at us both. He was a really handsome man with well-groomed hair. He walked towards me with his hand reached out for a handshake. I shook his hand. He had a firm grip.
It is such a pleasure to meet you in person, Miss Cronti. I appreciate your efforts to reach out for a mutually beneficial friendship.
I think so. Rosnas, I admire your father very much. May he rest in peace. Welcome. Your kind words have touched me, Vice President. He was indeed a great man. Please, accept our condolences. We are saddened. He would have been very happy to hear this from you, Mr. President. It's time to look forward. Let's talk about a bright future. Yes, there's much to discuss. Believe it or not, I have been a secret admirer of your political success. I find your quick rise to power was shockingly well executed. The admiration goes both ways. Marcel gently pointed at the seats. We sat down around a gigantic table. Before speaking, he knocked on wood. The past months have been tumultuous, to say the least. I'm glad you and your family were unharmed with the shooting. The whole incident must have been a shock for the kids. They aren't used to what we lived through back in the late 20s. I still remember when my father took us out of the country when it became too dangerous in Conrad. They were startled, but the important thing is they're safe and sound. Of course, that is all that matters. No family should suffer from tragedy ever again. We've had enough of that. Well, I'm known to be a straightforward person, so let's make it to the point without wasting your valuable time. It was certainly the Alfonso campaign, but I was struck by what you've done within the party. Marcel started to look at one of the paintings on the wall. I observed the painting. The famous piece depicted a giant sleeping beneath a village. The trees, rivers, and hills were all part of the giant's body. Its two eyes were caves looking up at the people. It showed daylight at the far left and nighttime at the far right. The giant seemed to be watching the village. It was totally unbeknownst to the villagers. Marcel pointed his finger at me. You said we would transform this nation, Mr. Rain. My conglomerate's way of doing things. I don't want them to change. So I want to cooperate with you. Please, explain. You might have the people's support now, Mr. President, but what happens when you make mistakes? Everybody makes mistakes. Oi, what's that supposed to mean?
Let's hear this point, Vice President.
Being a president in this country means having many enemies. Enemies that will result in anything to bring you down. Let's say these enemies caused a scandal or leaked sensitive information from the administration. These would be destructive when they were released. If they were released. Continue. Assume that the articles would actually protect your integrity no matter what. Try to imagine how up to 5 million people at reach will not lose faith in you. And what do you want in return? I want two things, Mr. President. Number one is a guarantee from you that the Reign administration won't meddle in heart of soul in affairs, no matter what happens. Number two is a simple gentleman's favour for our future. Let me prove my services to you first, and I'm sure you won't disapprove when the time comes. It is certainly an intriguing proposal. It's not just interesting, but necessary. You surely know that this is a win-win situation. The media will be on your side, strengthening your position. It will also protect my business operations throughout the changes this country will see. Yeah, alright, cool beans, dude. We have a deal. Happy to hear that. You can contact me personally through this number. As soon as you know that a sword against you will break, please call me and it will be taken care of. I hope you'll uphold your end of the bargain as well. I shook his hand. Marcel put his second hand on mine. We'll meet again. Goodbye.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Kronzi.
We returned to Whole Sword. Awesome. That'll be pretty useful later on here. Alright, so country overview, we have media bias as an orange thingy in our law section, so that's cool. Seems to be the only thing popping there so far, so let's pop back to Whole Sword here. Casaro Keebner demands emergency to be called. The leader of NFP, Casaro Keebner, demanded an emergency be called to address the increasing political violence in the country. He stated that without a declaration of emergency, Sordon would be destabilized and the integrity of the country would be damaged even further. Cool, I don't think we want to turn Sordon into a police state. I don't know, I guess we'll figure it out when we get that far. Alright, so, dear. Funeral of Bernard Circas. The death of Bernard Circas has shocked the country and his funeral will be held in Deer. Among a large crowd of sympathizers, Circus was not only a communist poet, but also an elected MP that had a voice. A state funeral has been organized to honor him. The question is whether the President of the administration will attend the funeral or not. Obviously, we're attending. And it looks like the only thing to do is to go to said funeral. Alright. Dark clouds were looming over Deer. They looked daunting as our convoy started approaching the century-old cemetery. Looked like it was going to rain. Certainly fitting weather for a funeral. As expected, Bernard Circas' passing maintained its media traction. All of Sordon was paying attention to the ceremony, especially to what I would say in my speech today.
Sir, we have arrived.
Raindrops were running down the car window, and Serge opened my door and held an umbrella over my head. As soon as I got out, flashes from the cameras blinded me. It's okay, Serge. I can hold my own umbrella.
As you wish, sir.
He handed me the umbrella and started waiting next to the car with his own. Peter and Carl exited from their own cars in the convoy. They made their way over to me. I'm done. Yeah, Mr. President. I just wanted to inform you that the perimeter is clear and secure completely. There's no one getting in or out without our knowledge. Good work. Thank you, Carl. Carl bowed his head with respect. Good. If anything happens on you have to answer to the First Lady. And trust me, Carl, you don't want that. Peter let out a laugh, which drew some attention from bereaved attendees. I gestured at Peter to lower his voice a bit. Yeah, right, sorry. It started to rain. Several unintelligible voices were heard from Carl's radio. He stepped out to reply and returned shortly. Yeah, we have a small problem, sir. A few, 5 to be exact, Red Youth members are here to attend the funeral. They apparently said they wish to pay their respects to their fallen comrade. Should we let them in? Yeah, let them in. As you command. Hey, let's head over. They're about to start. We walked towards the crowd circled around the grave. Everyone in attendance is wearing black and mourning. The rain started pouring heavily. Bernard's widow and daughter were in the front row, staring at the coffin with a mixture of disbelief, confusion, and above all, a cold, unforgiving sadness. Both of their eyes were very red and swollen from weeping. Before taking my place to observe the ceremony, I gave my condolences to Bernard's wife and then daughter, who looked at me. She reminded me of Diana. When the religious ceremony was done, I was invited by the priest to deliver my speech. I took the podium. I felt like I had a lump in my throat. I couldn't get the daughter's eyes out of my head. Today, we're mourning Bernard Circas, a father, a husband, and a loyal servant to this country. Towards the back of the crowd, I spotted the members of the Red Youth wearing red shirts and black bands of mourning on their arms. They seemed ruly and respectfully bowing their heads. There was complete silence except for the sound of raindrops. He was a true comrade, and he fought for what he believed in, his ideal vision of Sorland in every step of his life. We must learn from him. Circus had a dream of a unified Sorland. In these next months, we need to fulfill his dream and band together. Let's see. Let's go with this one. But hatred begets hatred. There is only one way to overcome this vicious cycle. We must unite against the evil of this world. I would now like to recite a part from one of the poems he left us. Let's go with the bottom one. They did not let us sing our songs. They are afraid of the dawn. They are afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. Moment of silence, please. During the silence, all that was heard were the ravens. Some attendees started clapping, some crying. Coffin was lowered into the grave by the gravekeepers. After a couple of minutes, Bernard Circas was with the soil, no more. As we bid farewell to Bernard, I want to close with the words every sword lives by, a magno escore. Everyone replied, Veterans sta, victory is close. With applause, I stepped down from the podium. It was time to leave. The widow thanked me with a soft and defeated voice before we dispersed. On my way back to the car, I still couldn't get the eyes of Bernard's daughter, nor the faltering voice of his wife out of my head. Would Diana, Monica, and Franck look the same way if something happened to me? Peter put his hand on my shoulder. That was a good speech. I sensed some respect from his voice. Thank you. I mean it. I know you do. Come on, it's time to go. We've got work to do. He was right. We had work to do. So much more to do. I realized that the rain had stopped, and I looked up. The black clouds slowly dispersed, and sunbeams enlightened our surroundings. As someone once said, even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. Hope was still on the horizon. Awesome. Alright, so it doesn't look like we have any reports, just a couple of newspaper articles, so let's check those out real fast. From the Whole Sword Post, they are afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. Huge crowds of mourners, including President Rain and other senior Sword officials, joined for a rare display of unity, poured into the heart dear today to To bid farewell to Bernard Circas, the politician who shot and killed at the gates of the Room Palace after Reign's inauguration ball. Hundreds of police officers in riot duty on gear and traffic barred on major thoroughfares, the normally chaotic section of the city took on a somber atmosphere. Millennialist anthems played from loudspeakers along Freedom Avenue as Swordfish citizens of various ethnicities stood shoulder to shoulder, many of them in tears. Others leaned out windows or balcony railings to watch the procession. President Rain gave a unifying message to all of Swordsland by attending the funeral. Paid his respects to Circus, met with his close relatives. Rain also made an emotional speech that touched thousands of attendees. He finished his speech with a quote from Circus. They did not let us sing our songs. They are afraid of the dawn. They are afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. Cool. And from Swordsland's Day, President Rain's last farewell to Bernard Circas. Scenes of compassion, unity, and respect were recorded during the solemn funeral of Bernard Circas, which the VP and the President attended. President Rain has shown respect and grace by letting Red Youth members enter the funeral to give their final goodbyes to their fellow traveler. This show of compassion is what the country deserves at this period of uncertainty. The new era of the Rain administration indicates that the divisions of the country might soon be healed. I certainly don't know about that, but that's okay. Alright, let's head to the Blue Mansion in Lockhaven for a briefing on the current diplomatic situation. The Blue Mansion in Lockhaven hosts us for the important diplomacy gathering. The door opened, and David Vichy, once a lecturer to me, and now the Minister of Foreign Affairs, gently made his way towards my desk. May I sit down, Mr. President? Leave the formalities aside, David. Please take a seat. Right, I'm still getting used to your new position, Anton. He slowly sat down, taking care not to aggravate the arthritis in his knees. He'd always had an air of gravitas about him, and old age had only served to deepen that. After he settled himself, he regarded me with delight, his blue eyes sparkling. Look at you, Anton, the fourth president of Swordsland. What a privilege for me. I still remember the first day I took my class at Old Sword State University. Somehow, the inexplicable ebb and flow of life has led us here, to positions where we can change the course of history. This is our opportunity to shape the future, and we'll do precisely that. I'm looking forward to our new foreign policy. He started coughing again, this time for longer. How's your health, David? Oh, I haven't had any big complications except the usual after that heart attack earlier this year. Health complications aren't a hindrance to my work, of course, but thanks for asking. How's the Rain family? We're slowly starting to get used to the routine. As time passes, I realize it more. Family's the most important thing in life. We must take care of them. The door opened. Joseph and Lucien joined us for the briefing as the tall case clock hit the hour mark. Peter, however, was missing. I wonder if he was late from all the drinking he did at the party in Lockhaven. We'll talk more, President Rain. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, how's your travel to Lockhaven?
A little bumpy due to some turbulence. I arrived via military cargo plane and arrived at Lockhaven International. I took the train. This was a little slow, but I can still recommend it for the beautiful landscape. I also had the possibility to work on a couple of things during the ride. Well then, since Mr. Vectrin doesn't seem to be coming today, I think we are ready to start. Now, I'll start by providing a brief overview of our current status with our neighbors. What would you like to start with?
How about Agnolia?
Our brotherly nation to our northeast, Agnolia. They're still diplomatically non-aligned. It probably has one of the most democratic systems between our neighbors.
Economic stagnation is a worry for them. Their primary issue is their heavy reliance on foreign investment from us.
Agnolia is our most friendly neighbor. We've been allies for the longest time after Rumburg annexed Dome. This fact needs to be part of the equation. Unsurprisingly, the Agnolia Prime Minister, Martin Van Horten, is expecting better cooperation with their new fair trade deal with us. It was one of his election mandates.
We'll think about it. Matters still on the table.
We could secure them as allies if we make concessions in the new agreement. Rumburg is our common threat. Additionally, the latest numbers indicate that currently 1 million Agnosaurus citizens live in the island region of Swordsland.
Which creates a link between foreign policy and our internal affairs. These people have suffered socioeconomically, which led them to crime and other problems.
In addition, a relaxed immigration policy is one of Agnolia's main requests, which is unacceptable. Most of the migrants in our country haven't even assimilated into Swordfish culture. Adding more won't help.
I'm supportive of relaxed immigration.
I would really take the matter seriously because there's great influence on our society and values. can't let any more dirty foreigners into our country.
We should remember that we promised to keep our immigration laws relaxed in the election campaign. Alright, well, how about tell me some more about Vogsland here?
Our cousins of old across the Marking Sea wish to have good relations with us. As we all know, Fox is a socialist republic aligned with the United Cantona. They're an important regional player. It's also the most significant sea power in Eastern Maricopa. We had hostile relations with them after civil wars in the 19th century, which we wouldn't want to experience again. Recently, the relationship has warmed up thanks to Emmerich Hagel. As a result, diplomatic talks can be conducted in the future.
Breaking the ice with Vogsland could be good if we were to rise diplomatically.
I agree they could be potential allies, in my opinion. The situation in the region necessitates we find allies.
They haven't been in good relations with us for the past 200 years. Recently, they also joined the Communist Cantonan Security Pact, subjugating themselves to United Cantona. On top of that, territorial issues flare up between Agnoli and Vogsland because of Hilly Island. The Swedish Navy is very concerned with this volatile situation.
Lucian looked slightly worried.
Unfortunately, billions of Suzerain worth of cargo is transported close to Vogslandian maritime borders on the Marking Sea and the Grey Straits. And this causes significant risks to our imports and exports in the case of a deterioration in relations.
The strait is of high strategic value to us.
Yes, if the Navy is keeping an eye on the situation from a distance, right?
We're actively monitoring the sea routes cargo ships. For now, there's no immediate threats, but we don't know what can happen in the future.
Alright, what's the latest situation in Balin?
It's tumultuous in the south as always. Victor Smolak is expanding his powers among protests from basic people. However, he is quite positive about normalization of relationship between our countries. Reports indicate that they have been warming up to Cantona and international aid. As you know, Valen's stability was always a concern for the region. But if we want to help them, we must not treat refugees like we did in the 30s. I still can't stomach the inhumanity those people suffered.
Why help such a disorganized state? Not sure what we can do to help them.
Yeah, it does pose many risks, but we could ensure that we have more influence in the region by increasing our trade and border security. Our main goal should be to avoid a refugee crisis like the late 1920s, that civil war had major security and economic repercussions on Swedish soil.
One of the demands of President Smolak was to tighten our immigration laws so the political refugees don't escape to settlement. There's been a recent purge that pushed many bluish to flee Belgium. It is definitely troubling. Government outpost is regaining its importance to this. I'm sure you remember that winter at the border outpost, Mr. President.
He was right. I did remember that winter. I remember the despair in the refugees' eyes when we forcefully escorted them back to the Valen border.
It is in our national interest to prevent the formation of a failed state on our western border.
Valen has been increasingly aligning itself towards the Communist alliance. Another point to analyze.
Cool, let's move on.
Two important neighboring countries made, Lesbia and Rumber. Which would you like to hear about first?
What about Lesbia?
Our southern neighbors are aligning itself more and more with Arcasia. Lesbia is currently led by Prime Minister Patricio Alvarez.
They are the jewel of the continent, the second largest economy in Maricopa. Though wealthy, Lesbia suffers from excessive economic inequality.
Our past relations have been great, but during the last decade, their investment soared into dwindled due to our instability.
Lesbia is a sleeping giant. We shouldn't wake them.
They surely are a powerful nation. Despite that, they don't tend to meddle in the region and haven't for a long time, with the exception of Valen. Let's not antagonize them. I am certain that the recession has a lot to do with their attraction of investments. Once they see that money isn't in the picture, they vanish rather quickly because of capitalists.
They have shown a selfish attitude during the Valen Civil War by closing their borders and funneling refugees to cross into Solvent.
Lucian cleared his throat. Our values are too different with Lesbia. It'll be hard to see eye to eye.
I completely agree. Lesbia has for a long time benefited from us through their old tariffs. They're after exploitation.
There are hundreds of very privileged oligarchs who invest inside and outside of Lesbia. Some made significant business investments in the cities of Benfield and Falcon.
Alright, well, what about the situation with Rumberg?
Yeah, now to the most troubling nation, Rumberg. Constitutional monarchy led by Queen Beatrix Livingston.
Our highly advised caution of calculated action against Rumberg. Our military must be prepared. The threat is real.
They are strong and have the motivation as well as means to damage us. We shouldn't give them any reasons to pursue aggression.
Rumberg is and always will be a roguelike state. Nothing can be done about them.
We can act in our limits and make sure we're prepared for anything. Sword rattling is not advised, in my opinion.
Well, Torpor Games deny such claims, and past the current actions make it clear that they want to destabilize us. The weapons caches found by intelligence agents clearly shows what the goals are. Our military must be steadfast and our diplomacy valiant.
Yosef looks stern and full of resolve. I think the threat's far too overblown.
I agree. Some of our government are taking the issue out of proportion.
Either way, treading carefully with them would be the best option. The safest bet.
Leeson grabbed the Lockhaven Times newspaper and put his finger on the article about the latest diplomatic incident.
Their abrupt announcement about the closure of the Rumble consulate in Lockhaven is yet another step in that escalation.
This covers the overview of the current situation. We'll move on to our trade choice in response to Rumberg's diplomatic escalation.
The sun began to set over the hills surrounding Lockhaven. The team was ready to give advice on the new trade initiative in response to the latest diplomatic incident with Rumberg. Pater arrived late and a little rougher than usual. It must have been the drinking from last night. Yeah, that folks. Excuse my delay. I'm sure I didn't miss anything we didn't already know.
You're still supposed to be part of this meeting, also on time.
Punctuality is important. We're talking about serious subjects here.
They have a point, Pater. We should have disciplined the cabinet. Excuse me, it won't happen again. Lucy and Yosef looked at Pater before David moved away from the subject.
Yeah, the vice president will be part of the trade delegation, so it's great to have input on the subject, but also on the Rumberg incident. There are 2 issues at hand. Which topic should we tackle first?
We should address the diplomatic incident.
Yeah, Rumberg Consul Sir Bran Harrington announced the closure of the 120-year-old consulate. Now the diplomatic staff is leaving the city to go back to Thornburg.
You blame the lack of security in Solomon due to the assassination and subsequent protests, but it's obvious they are making excuses.
Yeah, bastards. First they close the consulate, and then they blame our security.
I mean, their concerns could be genuine, but distraction is unnecessary. Right? Agreed. Other diplomatic missions worked with our security units to increase the protection of staff and buildings.
The neglect of President Alfonso and the chaos of the elections delayed our diplomatic efforts. Now there are only 2 Rumberg diplomatic missions left in Sorland. One is Constant Deer and the other is Embassy in Holsword.
We're accustomed to the usual rhetoric, but this is far more serious. They're playing the fight. Look at what the Valen destabilization has done to the region. It's sort of breaking apart with San Macopa apart.
In my entire career, I've never seen our Rumberg relations suffer this much. The previous low point was the annexation of Dome.
Yes, Valencia is furious. He barely kept himself from slamming the desk.
There are worrying developments like a smuggled arms built near the border. Our military must be buffed up to stand against the regional power like Rumberg.
Well, we can either respond to this aggressive act with a diplomatic combination, or we retaliate by closing our consulate in Dome.
I want to say that an escalation would risk this early in our presidency. We should focus on creating a negative image of Rumberg on the international scene.
People of Solomon must be protected no matter the cost. I say we respond equally.
Let's go ahead and close the consulate. Retaliate by closing the Sorland consulate in Dome. They think they can bully us. They are never so wrong.
As you wish, Mr. President. I shall begin work by immediately informing the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade.
A strong response to Rumberg will boost popularity at home.
Glad we're trying to clear a red line. Otherwise, they'll keep escalating the situation.
I like the dissemination, Mr. President. Alright, let's move on to the new trade initiative.
Our primary goal will be to successfully sign a trade agreement with one of our smaller neighbors. We have 2 options with our trade initiative. Start new trade negotiations with our partner Agnolia and forming new cooperation with Valen.
Alright, tell me about the trade deal with Agnolia.
First off, the reason behind this option is more diplomatic and economic, although of course we can't forgo the added economic value. Agnolia is an old ally and a valuable trade partner. The point we're at with the early negotiations is around the steel trade. They're demanding that we buy their steel for a higher price. That's because they think the deal is far too balanced as it is. The second main demand is privileged access to the agriculture market. If we're to fulfill their demands, they're offering full alliance with Sorland against Rumberg.
Looking at the current advances of Rumberg near our borders, having a coalition against Rumberg would prove extremely useful.
Now, obviously, there will be consequences for any full alliance. Mainly the issues around the Hilly Islands. Falcon has clear intentions on taking over the island one way or another, and entering military alliance with Magnolia, make them furious.
I want to state my support for the decision. Stick to our old ally, Magnolia. Even though I disagree with the demand to elect immigration, we have cooperated with them on many issues in the past.
Yeah, no, I don't think these subjects we still need to tackle, like our economies. Trade goods, so what's your thing with immigration?
My opinion is this is a good deal. We should go for it. The new Magnolia Prime Minister is trying to improve the existing relationship. The downside is we would need to make concessions. The reality of any trade deal.
Let's see. I think we want to ally with Folgson later. Let me check the guide here real quick. Cool. All right. So, looks like we want to do this. I'd be open to creating a new agreement that satisfy all sides.
Yeah, it would be the best outcome. We decide that Magnolia is a good option. Another point is that they have a very democratic system. After the recent elections, PM has mandated to arrange a fair deal with us. Martin Van Horten also snapped support for lax immigration. Since we said we'll keep immigration relaxed, it'll help us. Starting the highway construction island plays part too.
Regardless, if we are going to increase our regional influence to previous others, we might need to make amends with our neighbours. Ultimately, the decision will be up to you as always.
Cool, so we have to deal with Valen then.
And generally, a fractured country like Valen has its positives and negatives, although be lucrative in short term, there are risks associated with dealing with such a country. They are proposing co-investment projects and no tariff agreement. They're also offering oil in return for attracting foreign capital investments from Sortland. However, it is possible there will be international ramifications for getting close to a country like Wayland. All in all, this is a very lucrative deal for us. However, we need to think about the consequences.
I certainly don't support the decision to become friendly with Valen. We carry their burdens for decades. The migrants flooded our country. Now they're expecting a deal from us.
Maintaining influence with Valen could be useful. Yes, it's risky, but think about our influence on an undeveloped region like that. We could also sell more products into the market easily.
I am of the opinion that it's simply too risky. Yes, we would gain resources and immediate capital, but I'm afraid of the consequences.
I think the return is too lucrative to pass up on regardless of the risk.
The migrant crisis was one of the reasons behind the destabilization of Solon. I would like to point out that it was due to Valen.
If we wish to go forward with the deal when the time comes, there is a topic of immigration to consider. Victor Smolak is known isolationist. Our promise to keep our immigration policy relaxed will not help at all. He blames us for bringing Western interests to the region. He also doesn't want his political opponents to flee here.
I personally don't like the idea of getting too close to Valen.
Yeah, me too.
Agreed.
I still think we should give it a try.
Our campaign promises to steer Sortland towards East and United Katana will have an impact on the negotiations. Especially with Valen. As you know, the current affairs of Valen are partly result of United Katana supporter Victor Smolak. Our promise will come in handy. As for Magnolia, this promise made them cautious, which might make it harder to get a good deal. We also need to consider the effects of our economic doctrine plan. The fact that we're headed towards a planned economy will have an influence.
Good negotiators optimize interests, so makes differences become trivial, like both sides to reach a deal.
Very true, Mr. Vector, and we've had a lot of time to prepare before the scheduled visits to Valen and Magnolia. I believe this gives a brief overview of our current options. Our trade delegation will begin work towards the end of the year. We expect final negotiation, the signing to happen next year.
I'm very much looking forward to visiting Stoppard and Rockovitz, probably almost like David and Simon.
Peter laughed. Yosef narrowed his eyes and stared at him. Well, that concludes our meeting, Mr. Rain.
Awesome. Have a good day and enjoy Lockhaven.
I'll take my leave then. Sure.
Meeting concluded and the team dispersed. Our diplomatic action plan officially began. Awesome. Wow, we got a whole bunch of newspapers here. Looks like just one report. But this video is already starting to run a little long. So, I think this is as good a time as any to call for today. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see y'all next time.